We're still at the tail end of winter, so feeding continues to be the most important part of the day. We have talked about it. Let's see here. Where's it planned? It's going to be next week, actually, that the episode comes out and it says where we normally feed throughout the winter time. So we've covered that before in a short episode, but today I want to talk about calving time specifically. Does that change it a little bit? Because we're also heading into that particular time. We're coming out of winter, heading into the dreaded spring storms and babies hitting the ground. So do we end up feeding at a different location and doing anything differently in preparation for the calves?
So it's a process in itself. During the kind of the heart of the winter, I guess you'd say, we when we need to start feeding, and this last year has been, we made it to almost December 1st before we needed to start feeding, which was fantastic. Beats the previous 2 years where we were starting in end of September and October.
Yeah.
That sucked. It was bad. We didn't have any feed, but we do now. During those winter months, early winter, everybody's out together in a larger pasture, and we're just feeding right alongside every other day or the day before where we laid feed out so that they can spread manure. It's not as hard on the ground. We're throwing some carbon back in the ground, I guess, if you want to say, but fertilizer. It's a fancy way of
Yeah.
saying we're fertilizing the ground. Big deal. Um, Rest rotating that ground usage, but now it's the end of February, since about the last week in February to now, which is the first 2 weeks in March, where we're at in there. I moved all of the calvy cows, meaning cows that got calves in them, not on them, that those go in what we call a calving pasture. All of the other stuff, which is basically steers, replacement heifers, things that are not pregnant, they stay in the pasture where they were at, where we fed all winter long. We changed from giving those animals feed in the morning so that they can just tank up, and the coldest part of the day they're chewing on some new food and getting some heat in them, to waiting until the evening to feed, because we're trying to alter that those hormone levels. Just feeding them in the evening tends to make them not have those calves in the depths of the morning, 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. It delays them a little bit. By and large does that. It doesn't always do it on every animal, but certainly helps to where we're having those calves a little bit later in the day. They're a little bit warmer. The sun's up, which makes a tremendous difference to make something want to live. Big ball of fire in the sky is a huge motivator. So starting on these cows with a little bit more alfalfa, a little more higher protein type feeds instead of the grass or grass alfalfa mix. They're going to get a little bit more of the alfalfa stuck in them. We've been doing that to start the milk production a little bit better for when they do calve, and then feeding it at night, work them into that where we're feeding in the evening. Shouldn't say night. It's just evening before dark. And then they're largely feeding throughout the night. And then the next day they're able to calve. So it's a little bit different. And then as those cows calve and they got calves on them instead of in them, then they go out into the larger pasture with those that are without calves, or the steers, replacement heifers, and then they can go on a different feeding schedule, or it's easier to feed everybody at once, even though it's 2 different pastures. Then they just get fed in the evening as well. Keeps them on their own feed, so that they're not standing against a fence wanting the fresh feed that's just put out, because they will do that.
Yeah.
They think it's
Look
always greener on the
longingly,
other side.
waiting, like, am I gonna get some?
Right, exactly. Where's mine? So those are really the big things that we do in given those cows. And I learned this and kind of come to it really kind of at the same time. We used to not feed alfalfa at all. One of the issues is a little cheaper to have grass hay, but The cow
And we
doesn't
don't
need.
usually do it for the horses either. That's part of it
No,
too. Like,
still don't do it for the horses. It's a
yeah,
little bit too much protein for them. They're a little too hot. Makes them washy. In other words, they're pooping, squirting poop instead of dropping nice round turds out like they should be. Um, no, horses get good grass hay. These cows will get good grass hay, but then we'll give a little bit of alfalfa with it, especially when it's cold. And I found that really what you're doing is you're cheapening your feed a little bit and feeding the grass hay. They're getting okay protein, 8-10% maybe, and then your alfalfa that you supplement with them does not have to be near as much. You can have 15 pounds of grass hay and say 10 pounds of alfalfa, and they'll get everything they need instead of 25 pounds of alfalfa or 25, 30 pounds of grass. And they will, of course, they'll gobble that alfalfa first because it's sweeter, tastes better, but they'll finish it up, leave, they'll go water, they'll try to graze if they can, they'll come back and they will finish that grass hay. So it acts more like a filler with protein. When I was a kid, I'd seen some really tough times where people were feeding, and it wasn't just us, it was everybody, uh, feeding straw to animals that were open, like replacement heifers, steers, feed them straw and then putting cake on top of that, cow cake
yeah.
or cow pellets. That straw did nothing but just keep that gut working and keep something inside them, keep them full. But the nutritional value is almost zero. But it was enough to keep them going, keep them in some flesh. You know, you can feed a cow everything they want and they'll gain weight in the wintertime. Well, that's not what you should be doing. If you're trying to stay in business. You don't want to lose weight on your cows. You don't want to gain weight in the winter. You just want them to maintain where they're at so that they're not behind when they have that calf, and they can um, supply that calf with good milk and pass a lot of protein and the minerals content in the milk to the calf, and the calf will start eating pretty fast. You'd be surprised how fast a calf will start eating some hay.
Well, you're talking about the cow cake, but do you normally help feed that regardless to especially the cows that are about to calve, or is that more or less just a because we used to do it pretty frequently, but is it more or less just an extra supplement on occasion?
On a great occasion anymore
Yeah,
with the cow cake. We used to supplement a little bit, really cold weather,
yeah,
uh hard conditions where they couldn't graze. Then I'd throw some of that out on top of that grass hay. Well, it's expensive and it's a one more step, but if you can get essentially the same thing, and you're not going to get some of your vitamins and minerals, your salt, out of that, that's a separate issue that we do anyway. So keep that full, and we can put that alfalfa out there with the grass hay and accomplish the same thing and not have to buy cow cake, because cow cake, you can be talking $350 a ton, where like right now with our alfalfa, you're talking 150, $160 a ton. So that's half the price and still getting good feed. And this is good alfalfa. It's not trash.
yeah.
Getting decent alfalfa into them along with that grass hay, so that you're able to give them everything they need, yet you're not just giving them straight alfalfa and that high protein where they might start gaining weight. I mean, you don't need that. So to kind of come around to that a little bit more in recent years.
Yeah. Well, that is the special stuff, the special things, the the razzle dazzle, the magic that is feeding during calving time. So hopefully we'll have some videos up here soon of some successful calving adventures, and hopefully we don't have to pull any cows because I'm gonna be there. I don't want to have to do it. I don't want to have to pull a calf out of a cow. So hopefully it's gonna be easy. Everything's gonna be just great. We wake up, they're all happy, and they're not gonna be any issues. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Don't jinx it like that. You'll have
I said
30%
hope.
pulling.
I said
Yeah,
hope a lot. I said it wouldn't
yeah,
happen. I
yeah.
said I hope a
Hope.
lot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe we get a little leeway there.
Well,
Kevin gods are forever on our side.
yeah. All right. With that, we'll take that conversation and put it out to pasture.